Hello and welcome to the Daily Atheist. It is Tuesday, the 28th of April, 2020. And how you doing? You having a good week so far? I am having a good week so far. Guess who I've got on the show today? I'll tell you in a minute. Right now, though, I have got my... I'm picking on Andy. I got my co-host, Andy. Andy Hall, he's a writer and comedian from the Laughing in Disbelief blog over at Patheos. Good morning, Andy. How are you doing? Oh, wait. Man, I'm almost there, dude. Now do your jazz hands.
Jazz hands.
Jazz hands.
Nothing but jazz hands.
I told you I was going to screw that up. Thank you, though. Good morning, Andy. Yeah. So we are going to have Seth Andrews on the show. Possibly.
Excited.
Excited?
Excited.
Yes. I sent him links yesterday. I'm sure he's going to be here. We haven't seen him yet. The time thing often gets confusing. He'll be here, I'm sure, soon. Otherwise, we're just going to pick on him and make up stuff because I had a list of questions about things.
Oh, you made a list. It sounds like you were prepared.
I actually got prepared this time. I really did. And these questions, if he doesn't show up, we'll just ask them and then we'll make up our own answers and we'll call it the Seth Andrews We Made It Up Show.
I made a list of questions too.
Hey, look at you. We're like grown-ups.
Almost.
Right?
Almost. I didn't say they were good questions.
We're like 9-year-olds with bunions.
That's
anyway. Right. No. Did I get something wrong?
Says he was just in the chat, grumpy old dude. That's what grumpy old dude says. Hello, grumpy old dude.
Oh, whatever. I'm okay. 10 a.m. Central. That would be 9 a.m. No. 9 a.m. Eastern.
We are 9 a.m. Eastern, sir.
That would be 8 a.m. I don't know how that happened. Did we screw that up? Did I screw that up? Somebody screwed that up. I don't know. I'm reading. I'm just reading to see if I screwed that up. As long as it's moving in a not my fault direction, I'm okay. Let's see.
I think that with the proper personality disorder, it's never really my fault.
That's true.
That's what I think. I know, Brain Bug. We're playing grown-ups this morning. I got like a legit shirt on. I don't have my hoodie. It looks like I've washed within the last day or so.
Sorry I'm just letting him know it's 9 a.m. So we're live now.
I'm going to talk about me not getting any sleep last night. I've been up since 3 o'clock this morning, so I am ready to roll. I was in bed by 8:30 p.m. last night. Mm-hmm. I was up at 3, and I am ready. I got my second coffee going on.
Me too, actually. Yeah. So yeah, you got horrid sleeping schedules such as I do. So I've sent him a message. I think he'll probably be here in a minute. The message reads, "Sorry for the confusion. We're going to blame Andy."
Blame Andy. Sure. Yeah. Everyone else does.
Yes. We'll blame Andy for this one. I hope he goes for that. He hasn't responded yet.
Sure.
Yes. It looks like, oh, you know what? I haven't got to say anything to the people in the chat yet. And we've got people in the chat this morning. Kelly Sellers. Good morning. Kelly, Gary Priestley, Grumpy Old Dude is here. Good morning. Hi, you guys. Actually, there's more people than normal. Brainbug is here. Wooly Ignorant is here. I suckered him in with that big Seth Andrews banner. He'll be here. Good morning, IQ. Hey, dude. How you doing, buddy? Nice to see you here. Randy is here. We got actually too many to really go through a name. It would be unfortunate. John Anthony. Good morning, everybody. Paul Camish. So, like I say, it's probably my fault somewhere in there that I have mistimed it with Seth. But we're going to blame Andy. We've decided we're going to blame Andy.
Hashtag blame Andy.
Hashtag, I should really work that up.
That's from John Anthony right there. Hashtag blame Andy. I finally have my own hashtag.
Blame Andy. It's Andy's fault.
Sounds like my ex-wife.
That joke hit personal, hit home.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
Grumpy Old Dude, he's here for once on time. That's right. And I wonder if Seth is going back through his stuff going, did I agree with this up or did Chris,
Well,
for Seth, I would run another show at 10 a.m. Central for Seth. I would. I just shut this thing down. We'll be back in an hour or two. And I shut this Sorry.
Damn it, Andy. Wow, getting kind of bold there, but yeah. Oh,
Damn it,
blame
Andy.
Canada. Blame
Blame
Canada.
Canada.
Yeah, yeah. They closed their borders with us. Smart move on Canada. They don't want any of our shenanigans going up there. Paul Kamish. I think I'm pronouncing that right. How's it going, Paul?
Paul Kamish. I think that's how you say it. I don't know.
Kamish?
Maybe,
Is that how you say it?
you know,
Kamish?
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 He's
Kamish?
English, so I would think the stress would be on the first. Well, there's lots of stress because he's English.
There's a lot of stress, right? Brexit, chaos, COVID. Gonna do catch and release. Maybe with Quebec. I don't know.
That's right.
I'm only a stupid American. I only know certain things about Canada.
You know, I think I think this is probably the biggest. You know, Seth Andrews and let's see who else. No offense to anybody if I don't put you on this list. If you're watching, Seth Andrews and Aaron Ra are some of the tallest hogs in the trough I've had on my show. And I must have screwed up the time. Here I am. Hey.
So is that a West Texan saying?
What's that?
Tallest hogs in the trough? I've never heard that, but I'm just a New Englander. We're pretty hog light here in this area of the country.
Yeah. You know, it's like some of the most, you know, prestigious individuals. There you go. I should probably use those types of phraseologies. These are the most prestigious individuals I have ever had on my show. Yeah, I screwed up. I remember when Aaron Ra was on the show. I mean, I was just like a kid, nervous, you know, and I'm trying to make jokes because that's what I do when I get nervous.
Yeah.
And he's just sitting there. That got awkward for me.
Yeah.
He was laughing on the inside, and I know this. All right.
Oh, sure. Right.
Okay, let me do this. Good morning.
Oh, Kelly Sellers. Kelly Sellers. I'm in Boston. I'm actually in Somerville, so Kelly.
Good morning, Seth.
I am so sorry I'm late. Please, I have no good excuse.
No, that's quite all right. We will blame Andy. We've already covered all this. We're blaming Andy. He's prepared. He's got some broad shoulders.
That's my fault.
I have no shoulders.
I was editing the audio of an upcoming audiobook, and I just looked up and I thought, going live in 2 hours? Wait, 2 minutes? Oh, forgive me. But I'm here, late to the party, but I'm at the party.
That's okay. Good morning. It's nice to have you. Real quick, you know, I actually worked up an introduction for you. Ha
Oh, God.
This is the thing between me and Andy. Andy's going to kill me for that. Seth Andrews is a video producer and former Christian broadcaster who now hosts the thinkingatheist.com, one of the most popular online atheist communities in the world. He has 3 books out: Deconverted, A Journey from Religion to Reason, Sacred Cows, A Lighthearted Look at Belief and Tradition Around the World, and Ghost Stories, a fictional audiobook inspired by his annual Halloween show. Good morning, Seth. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning. I'm a morning guy, you know, so I kind of like getting up and around, and I'm glad you guys aren't doing this at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
You know, my brain's fresh, you know, I've had my breakfast, got my coffee, so this is good for me. You guys do this every day?
Well, Andy joins me on Tuesday. I run the show 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, at 9 a.m. Eastern, and then on Saturday we do Sci-Fi Saturday. Where we it's really talk about sci-fi, and we do that at 11 a.m. Eastern. A little later, I let people sleep in. Before the Corona thing, now everybody sleeps late, so I've even considered about moving it back. But on Sci-Fi Saturday, what we generally talk about, if we can, if those people have those stories, is did science fiction help you move away from faith? If it did, we'd love to hear that story. Otherwise, we just talk about sci-fi. So
I just started Star Trek Picard on CBS All Access a few days ago. No spoilers, by the way.
Okay, thanks.
Loved episode 1, hated episode 2. Okay. Episode 3 is where I'm at, and it's not bad. Okay. The jury's still out in the series. And it's amazing because it's almost like the Apple Samsung debate. You throw it out, and it's extremely polarizing. Series. People either love it or they just despise it. There seems to be a little middle ground. So anyway, sci-fi, you brought it up, and I thought Picard, I started it this week.
Oh yeah, I think most people would agree that it's a beautiful series. I mean, it's filmed well.
Yeah.
Well, we've been doing a running thing about Star Trek on here. Star Trek and the Orville. Kristen, best name ever. She's big into Star Trek and stuff like this. And so, yeah, oh yeah, feel free if you've got a Star
I
Trek
think,
story.
my challenge is Picard is such a rich character, played so well. I could watch Patrick Stewart walk the vineyard with his dog for an hour, and I'm happy. He's just such a rich character, played by such a brilliant actor. And in episode 2, and this is not a spoiler, when we are finally becoming introduced to our antagonists, they're all just such mustache twirlers. These cardboard sneering, I totally took me out of the series. And I'm hoping that improves. I'm hoping that our bad guys, bad people have some more depth beyond just looking constipated for 44 minutes. So that's my gripe. But anyway, I'm done griping. I'm done griping.
Did you watch Discovery? Have you been through Discovery? I'm sure you have.
No, I haven't. I just got CBS All Access a few days ago when they were offering the free 30 days because of the COVID thing. So I'm just now navigating, trying to decide. One thing about it, I nixed satellite because I got tired of paying an obscene amount of money for television. So we ditched the dish years ago and went straight to Netflix and Amazon Video. But then I added HBO. That's $11.99 a month, and then I added Shudder. I think that's $7 a month, and now I've added CBS. And so after a while, I'm like, am I starting to pay the same amount that I used to pay for television? Am I defeating the purpose? But if there's enough good stuff there, I'll continue to subscribe and watch it.
Of course. Well, I've been me and my wife have been going through the Star Treks. She hadn't seen them all. I hadn't seen Discovery, and we were going through Enterprise and really finding it hard to get through Enterprise. And finally, this week we decided to skip it and just go on to Discovery. I've seen Enterprise before; she hasn't. Go on to Discovery. We're 10 episodes or so into Discovery, trying to get to Picard. Never seen Picard, so thank you for the no spoilers part.
You're welcome. Yeah. Yes. Well, I hate that myself when someone's like, they throw the zinger out and they ruin the moment of drama. But we'll give it a shot.
You're always welcome to come join us for Sci-Fi Saturday. I have, thanks to Andy, in fact, Leanne Lord, a comedian, actress. She's just a sci-fi nut. She's just wonderful. She comes on and she joins us for Sci-Fi Saturday. She co-hosts with me on Sci-Fi Saturday.
That sounds like fun to me.
Yeah. So you're welcome to come by anytime you want. I'll send you an invite. So then,
thank you.
Then we'll hit you up and keep nagging you. Hey.
All right. Well, my schedule's nuts, but if I find the window, I think it'd be cool to stop by.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about, we've got the normal litany of questions we go through, but something I read, of course, there's the gaming thing. I'd like to talk to you about the gaming thing. Miss Kristen has gotten me into Twitch. I'm twitching because of Kristen. She drugged me into it, kicking and screaming. But what I'm really curious about is your ghost stories. I was reading this in your bio, a fictional audiobook inspired by your annual Halloween show. Can you tell me about that? I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, I'm a storyteller, and while I like tackling the hard issues on the show that we do, I get tired of. You can only say the same thing so many ways, and I've really tried to branch out. So instead of just talking about religious issues, some weeks we talk about the science of good diet and nutrition and knocking out the pseudoscientific woo. We do shows on cults. Obviously, we've talked some politics. Try to branch out into life stuff. Occasionally, we'll just have fun shows where we just talk about the non-serious stuff. I think we had a broadcast called Unthinking. I can't believe I did this when I was drunk. And people just called the show. And I've always had a thing for ghost stories. I love the horror genre if it's done well. And so years ago in October, we would do a broadcast where I would tell famous ghost stories or find a hidden gem and produce some of them up with music and sound effects. And a few years after I began that, I decided to attempt a story of my own. So I wrote it from scratch and played the characters. And it was well received. So it became a tradition And at the end of the broadcast, every year, ever since, I will write and produce. And it's getting harder and harder, because after a while, well, we've already done this. We've already got the creaking noise in the closet. Now we've already done the ghost. We've already done the vengeance story. We've already done this. So it's harder and harder to put these together. But after a while, I realized I had put, I don't know how many hundreds of hours into the production of just ghost stories. And to release it and some fresh material as an audiobook on audible.com and throw it out there, because I'd heard some of the offerings, and there were some pretty good ones, but most of them were variations on, and all they found was an iron hook, all that kind of cliched stuff.
It was a dark and stormy night.
Yeah. I mean, or they're just gory, not scary, and being a storyteller producer, I'm a huge believer in the power of sound. Sometimes the power of silence between sounds, the theater of the mind. You take somebody on a journey, and you're in the car listening, and you are transported to another place. Those are some of my favorite things to do. They're some of my favorite podcasts. You take someone on a journey. And so that's what that is. In October, I'm sure we'll have another Halloween show, and probably in another half decade, I'll have enough material to release another audiobook of it. We'll see what happens. But that's kind of the story on Ghost Stories.
So, Seth, how do you write characters that people can really glom onto?
Well, I think the best characters are vulnerable, and in radio, we call it a relate. When you say something and the person on the other end of the broadcast is like, oh yeah, I know what that's like. And we used to do it with just dumb stuff. God, don't you hate it when you're at the store and you're in a hurry, and you're at the self-checkout and the scan's not working correctly, and so you had to call somebody over, and it would have been faster to go in and get checked out by a person. Something dumb like that. But everybody's had an experience. They're like, oh God, I know what that's like. Don't you, or haven't you ever been here? Haven't you ever done something stupid? You put the cereal in the refrigerator and you put the milk in the cabinet because you were just that tired and hadn't had your call. Oh God, I've done some dumb stuff like that. What you're doing is you're relating. People are connecting with you because it's part of the human experience. And when you're putting a character together, and I'm not Joseph Campbell, I'm no expert, but I always try to flesh out a little bit who they are and make them relatable in some way. Because if you can't relate, you have no reason to be invested. It becomes essentially a Michael Bay film, right? Michael Bay movies. There's a lot of stuff going on, and you have no reason to care. You just don't care
whatsoever.
So, but I'm sure there are so many people who write this stuff better than I do. I'm just one schlub, just putting it all together as best I can. My forte, even then, is not really as much fleshing out a character, is trying to hook you a little bit into who they are with some vulnerabilities, but then using sound to suck you into an environment where you are seeing in your mind. You see the hallway with the imperfections and the plaster on the wall, and you're hearing the creaking of the floorboards, and you're hearing the wind, and you're envisioning what this looks like or what it might look like. It's like the best scary movies don't scare you. The best scary movies get you to scare yourself. It's often what you think may be around the corner that draws you forward. And so that's probably what where I focus the most, more than characters.
Interesting.
Well, you've got a great audio. Audio is the bane of my existence. My stuff sounds bad all the time.
No, it sounds clean to me. It sounds clean to me.
I've been fighting
it's gotten easier. It's gotten easier, but 10, 12 years ago, we were still struggling with bandwidth and the technology itself. The internet was a blessing and a curse. But, it's gotten a little bit easier. I mean, the idea that we can even just stream video and have it look as clean as we do now is pretty amazing. I've used Zoom for some meetings recently, and holy cow, you can stream 8, 10 people at one time without lag. That's pretty amazing.
It's crazy, isn't it? The technologies we've got. I use a combination of StreamYard. What you see isn't what the people see. They see some kind of flaming we're in boxes surrounded by flames. That's what everybody else is seeing, because I'm using StreamYards over there and OBS over here and this other tool over here. And I got the chat up over there and this over there, and it all combines into one. And we make this produced show from home. And it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I don't see a chat or anything. I just see you guys. If I'm missing something, let me know.
Oh, well, the chat is, you don't see it in this program. You'd actually have to open up the show on YouTube and see.
I'd have to drive to your house. And
well, that'd get awkward, but okay.
Okay.
Let me see what else I've got over here. I wanted to ask you, when did you create the Thinking Atheist? How did you get into that?
Well, I was at a point here in Red State, Oklahoma, where I just come out of a religious faith, and I was a bit disoriented, and I felt kind of lonely, and as a producer, I had a real desire to be a part of the conversation. Like, I've got a beef with my former faith and with the culture that indoctrinated me, and I got to talk about this stuff. And so I started a YouTube channel and began producing content anonymously, because I was still working at the time for a company that produced a lot of Christian content and had a lot of Christian church clients, right? So that's weird. And I was afraid if they saw my face, if it got back to my boss, I'd be fired. I'd lose my house and everything. And so I did a lot of that behind the scenes, founded the website in 2009, finally started the podcast. Didn't even know what a podcast was until 2010. So I started that in June of 2010. We started humbly. We've had like 1,000 listeners, and then we were built on that. I finally showed my face in 2011 for the first time, sort of like cat's out of the bag. Right, here we go. And whatever is going to happen is going to happen. And hi, everybody. Hello, world. And I didn't lose my job, and I was fortunate that I managed to continue to be able to pay the mortgage. And more fortunately than that, I was able to sort of build the community, the show, the productions into something I could do full time. And I started that in 2015. So I've been a full-time activist for half a decade, and I'm hugely grateful to the viewers and listeners for allowing me to do it.
That's amazing. Yeah, 2009. So when did you deconvert? I lived in Oklahoma myself for a little while, so I kind of understand.
On purpose?
Yeah. Well, no,
Okay.
no, it wasn't by choice. It wasn't by my choice.
I give my home state a hard time. The truth is, the people here are lovely. Red State, Oklahoma does get a lot of grief, and in some ways we deserve it. We like to appoint theocrat governors. Everybody here has a church bumper sticker, kind of deal. And there's a lot of woo. There's a lot of Christian woo here. But the truth is that if you were in trouble, the people here would give you the shirt off their backs. They would jump in to help and assist you. But I started going through, I don't know if it's midlife. I don't know if it's, had something to do with being in my 30s and just getting tired of trying to keep everybody else comfortable, or maybe it was something else, a myriad of factors probably. But I just got tired of being told to take it on faith, right? To believe in belief. And I just came to this point where I thought, I'm going to go figure this out. It was actually a debate video with Christopher Hitchens. And I thought, what happens when the guy you're supposed to disagree with makes sense, which is exactly what happened. The guy I was supposed to disagree with, the atheist, made some good points. Well, now I'm weird. Now I feel weird. Like I shouldn't be thinking this. I shouldn't, this is doubt. Doubt's, wait a minute. Okay, hang on, hold on. Why would doubt be a problem? And so finally I gave myself permission just to follow the breadcrumbs. Let's just take this journey. Let's read the Bible again, and let's read some works of other people who challenge the Bible, and let's go into other religions, and let's just see where the rabbit hole takes us without apology. And, it took me a while because I'm slow, but, finally in 2008, I just came to this. I was just like, there's just nothing there. And I finally said the word atheist in regard to myself. I was pretty slow. I came late to that party, right? It took me 30 years to figure out donkeys can't talk, so I mean, it's a little embarrassing, but that's kind of how it happened for me.
So
And
2008.
then it was on that that I decided I'm going to try to encourage other people who might be on a similar journey and perhaps be a part of the conversation.
Gotcha. So you went right from being a believer, flipped to a non-believer activist in just about a year. 2008.
Well, I had become dormant in the faith at the beginning around 2000. I was disenfranchised with fundamental Christianity, which told me to reject my gay best friend. And I'd started cherry picking long before that. I wasn't a regular churchgoer in the 2000s. I knew the Bible to a degree. I knew all the memory verses from my youth and my 20s, but I was drifting. It's like coming out of a coma. You in the movies, the hero wakes up and jumps out of bed and grabs the girl and saves the day. And in real life, often it takes a long time to become conscious. And it was just in that last segment that I made a focused effort to, instead of just drifting on the membrane, wearing God like a lapel pin on my shirt, of course I'm a Christian, yeah, but not really living any sort of religiosity. It was at that last moment I decided, let's go get real and let's get specific and let's do some specific challenging. And at the end of that journey, I said, I think it was November 2008 when I finally said the word atheist in regard to myself for the first time. And then I got the joy of watching everybody in my family lose their minds. That's always fun. So,
Seth, I want to ask you, are there any artifacts, any remnants of Christian thought or feeling, reactions you still encounter today that you still have today?
Meaning what? Do I like...
So for an example, I heard a hymn the other day, and that just brought back a whole flood of memories from me being like 7 years old in church. Do you ever encounter anything like that?
Music, takes me back. They call the music, I think it's between the ages of 14 and 21, is the music that for many people becomes their most cherished music for the rest of their life. You're like it's there at this sort of critical time in your life, the soundtrack of your youth.
That would be Sawyer Brown for me. Sorry.
Yeah, I hear I hear old Kansas and Journey, but especially I hear like old Michael W. Smith and Stephen Curtis Chapman and Stryper. I'm sorry.
Stryper. Wow.
It takes me back to a specific chapter. I remember seeing Stryper in concert at the Brady Theater, and I remember buying this particular cassette at Tulsa Book and Supply, and I remember those things. And I have a lot of fond memories. It's weird. People ask me, well, man, you must look at your Christian radio days and think, what's the matter with me? But they were beautiful people. And the listeners were beautiful as well. I had a lot of fond memories from those days. I can't listen to it now because I think, well, they're selling a debunked mythology, and underneath all the love talk and all the happy, happy, joy, joy, Jesus talk is this undercurrent of love God or else, that else being damnation. And the larger picture that it's just not true. It's being sold as truth. It's being marketed to the tune of millions upon millions of dollars as truth, but it's just not true. But yeah, sure, I get those flashes. I maybe carry a little bit of the language, I'll say, oh, I'm really blessed. Occasionally it'll fly out, and I don't get tripped up on that stuff. Some atheists I've seen, they do, someone sneezes and you say, bless you, as a reflex. And they're like, that's a remnant of your superstitious past. You need to quit saying that. And I'm like, what's the matter with you? Like, it's just a reflex. It's just acknowledging somebody. If I say, oh my God, as an expression all the time, doesn't mean I believe in God. I'm using it in the colloquial sense, that kind of stuff. I don't get I don't get trip up on the pebbles like a lot of people do.
I like that. Not getting tripped up on the pebbles. I like that a lot.
I just, we get, even in conversations with a believer, when I'm sick, and they say, and they're not using it in that nauseatingly pious way where they say, I'll pray for you. Like when you're having a religious discussion, a theological discussion, and it's that sort of conversation stopping piety. But when maybe they don't know a lot about you, and they see that you're sick, and their culture's trained that this is how you show concern, and they say, well, no, I'll be praying for you, and they go off and do their thing. I don't stop them and go, the prayer is a debunked, magical incantation to empty space. It doesn't work. Blah. I don't choose that moment to have that battle. I try to look at the intent behind it. They're just trying to be nice. And I'm like, well, thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. Take care. Have a good day. We'll have the prayer conversation another day in another better context, So
Absolutely. Real quick, Kristen wanted me to ask you to do the weather and traffic in your radio voice.
That's so funny. Kristen is a regular. She's a friend. She
An
just
instigator.
had a birthday,
She did have a birthday.
Yeah. But she comes by the Seth Andrews gaming channel, and she's a moderator, and she's she's practically family. And so sometimes when we're talking about the fact that it was raining the other day, and I do slip into that morning because I did radio for 14 years. Partly sunny skies, 78 degrees, chance of showers this afternoon, possibly some severe weather. We've got potential of hail, damaging winds, but clearing up tomorrow and then warming up to the 90s by the weekend, that kind of thing.
That's wonderful. Yeah. If you ever need a job, great DJ. I'm just thinking.
It's
earn that heavy coin over there working at a radio station, maybe AM even.
I used to think that, when I first started dreaming of a radio gig, I thought, man, I'm going to go and be a radio guy, and I'm going to be in the green, man. And the truth is, radio is a freaking meat grinder. You are, unless you're the top tier of broadcasting, you're making almost nothing. You're working weird hours, weekends, sometimes overnights. You are always on the bubble. Your job is always at risk. One bad ratings period or one station getting sold to a new owner or a new consultant comes in and you're gone. And I knew guys who were doing morning radio, and they were a morning show host, and then they would go to the grocery store to sack groceries to try to supplement their income. So, it ain't a sexy profession like many people believe. And it became even more so with the advent of computers and automation. Oh, yeah. But, I love radio, and I'm so thankful for internet radio. Even more than video, audio podcasting, audio broadcasting is such an intimate medium. You are in their homes. You are in their ears. You are on their morning walk. You are at the gym. You are in radio, you don't have a conversation with 100,000 people. You have a conversation with one person in 100,000 different instances, right? You are one-on-one, and they take you into their lives, and they know about who you are and what your dog's doing, and that you went on vacation, and that you were sick last week, and what your favorite TV shows are. And you develop this relationship, and that really manifests when you go out and do like a convention. And those listeners come out, and it's a familial bond. It's immediate. You're just like, hey, and they're like, oh, how's Natalie? How's Linus? How you doing after this or that? And radio, I think more than any other medium, really does connect people. Video's close, but radio is something very special to me. So,
well, I'm recently getting into the podcasting myself. I have a podcast. I just have no idea how to use it. I'm all about the video. So these words you say about the podcast, anytime you talk about your podcast, and that kind of inspires me to just take my content that I got and throw it over on the podcast and give it, give it a voice. I mean,
if I wasn't meticulously always manicuring the show, I would probably do like a simulcast with video more often than I do. I do like, the video aspect of it very, very much. But I think maybe it's just old school. Seth Andrews, just thinks about the time when they are listening and they are taking a journey with you and painting their own kind of pictures. I don't know. I mean, to each their own. I think both have their merit.
I have another question.
Oh, no.
Real quick, I have a question for you. Did you have any family members? This is from Native Atheist in the chat. Did you have any family members who disowned you since you came out?
No, they didn't disown me at all. They just, how do I say this? They went, they panicked. We'll say it that way. Now, mom and dad are hardcore. My mom and dad are theologian level believers. My mother teaches New Testament Greek, of all things.
Really? Okay.
And, they spent their whole lives priming the Christian pump, man. We were in Christian school, Christian music, Christian friends, and we had Christian memory verses. We watched Christian television, and we went to Christian churches. So they sort of stacked that deck with no option to really explore the world beyond that. And for most of my siblings, that has worked. They are Christians, and they went and had kids of their own who were raised to be Christian, and they are going to have kids of their own who were raised to be Christian. So here's Seth, and Seth leaves the reservation. Seth goes off on walkabout to try to figure out whether or not it's true, and they just freaked out. And it was awful. I mean, they didn't disown me, but they tried every tactic in the book. They tried to prove God with science. They tried the moral argument. They tried telling me that I was an embarrassment to the family. My father used to say, "Come back to the family," which means that if you don't think like him, you are now not in the family. Wow. We did cut off contact for a while. That was mostly about boundaries. They're throwing all this shame and blame my direction, telling me how to live. And I just decided to pull the plug. You don't get to do this, parent or not. This is inappropriate. No one gets to tell you how to live. You don't get to tell me how to live. You certainly don't get to try to shame me into that. And if you continue, I will cut you out of my life. And they continued, and I blocked them on my phones, and we didn't speak. And, they're both, dad's 85 and in not great health. And I think we are all trying to reconnect. We get together, everybody's pleasant, but, there's still an undercurrent. Nobody asked me how work went last week. Hey, Seth, how's your job going? They'll ask anybody else. Where'd you travel to last week? Oh, really? How was that? Nobody asked me those questions. It's really sort of this elephant in the room deal. But, as best we can, we're trying. And I try to remember that they're, they've been kind of pains in the ass, but they're also victims of bad ideas. And they have a broken perception of what love, even tough love, is. And I'm trying to remember that is a kind of programming, and they genuinely believe they are doing the right thing. That perspective has helped just a little bit. Forgive the long answer, but there's just no short way to flesh that out.
Somebody mentioned you have a twin sister?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I have a twin brother.
Yeah.
I have a twin
my
brother.
Favorite part, when I tell people I have a twin sister and they're like, "Are you identical?"
I knew that was coming.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite.
Are you and she strained because of this?
No, we're not strained. How we came out of the same womb is one of life's great mysteries. I'm confrontational. She hates conflict. I say exactly what's on my mind. She sort of defers. I think Christianity is total crap and speak out against it. And she is Christian homeschooled her children and goes to church and finishes every sentence with God and prayer. I mean, we are night and day, and we have nothing in common. Doesn't mean we don't love each other, but we don't really hang. We get together and have dinner maybe once a quarter, and it's always fun and always pleasant, but we don't. Sometimes I feel like I'm related to people that I don't relate to. Does that make sense?
Absolute
sense. Speaking as someone who is adopted, I fully understand that.
Oh, really? Really?
Oh, yeah.
And some of it may be that I'm not a hugely sentimental person in a lot of ways, but I've often said I'll take a good friend over a distant relative. Like just because we're on the family tree doesn't mean that we share the same value system. It doesn't mean that we have anything in common. It doesn't mean that we even like each other. I mean, certainly we like each other, but this idea that, just because you're on an immediate branch of the family tree, we automatically should jive. I don't buy that. And I've seen family members, I get emails and talk to listeners, and their family members are awful to them, and they play the family card. Oh, it's your father. You got to deal with it. You got to put up with it. You know, he raised you, and that's just the way it is. And I'm like, no, you don't have to put up with it. They don't have permission, father or not. You determine the boundaries. And if they're being awful, you can look them in the eye and go, bye, and kick them out. And so I don't know. I'm you know, they're really good people, but they're so overtly religious, and so many of their conversations are overtly religious, and they do religious things all the time, all the time. And a lot of it, I feel like, is passive aggressive. I don't know. A lot of it, I feel like they make sure they do it in front of me to assert their belief. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Like, all right, everybody, we have to pray for the meal. We're definitely going to pray for this meal. Let's bless this food. Come on, everybody. And they know I'm sitting there kind of waiting for it to be over so I can dive into the chicken and mashed potatoes. You know? I don't know. I'm drifting. But
So I want to ask you, Seth, what's going on with Pastor Greg Locke?
I'm trying to think of what prompted that particular video. For those who don't know, Pastor Greg Locke he's got a church in Tennessee, not a big church, but he gets a lot of attention. And he was part of this protest. These people who believe that the lockdowns to protect people from COVID-19, the what's the word? Shelter in place orders or instructions or social distancing instructions and all that are, they believe that it's not just about trying to protect human life during a global pandemic. They have decided that this is an encroachment on their constitutional liberties. You don't get to tell me to stay home. You don't get to tell me can't go to work. You're going to shut me down. This is government overreach. This is socialism. This is this is that. And they lose their minds and they grab their flags and they crank up Lee Greenwood and they honk their truck horns and they go out and essentially have a big petri dish display out in front of the Capitol steps and pat themselves on the back for being free. And I saw this video with Pastor Greg Locke, and I'd just seen so much of it that week. I just got tired of being nice. And so I rolled camera and I'm like, this is an open letter to Pastor Greg Locke. And I spent 7 minutes just sounding off. What are you doing? Your freedoms aren't under attack. You aren't persecuted. Your constitutional liberties are not under threat. You are essentially going out. And, if you just infected each other, that'd be one thing. But now you become a potential hazard for all of our healthcare professionals who are in harm's way and anybody who might be out buying necessities, grocery shopping, or something else. If you bump into them, now you've potentially infected them, which means you potentially infected their spouse or their kids or somebody else. Like, you are not a closed system. Your stupidity affects other people. And that was the gist of the video that I released. I haven't gotten a reply from Pastor Locke. I don't know that I should expect one. I wondered if he was going to put something together and tell me I was going to hell. I've had a few of his followers come on my page to rebuke me. And it's weird watching the rebukes themselves because they're like little parrots. They're not even talking to you. Only a fool says there is no God. And then they'll just leave that comment and go, which is the equivalent of an argument that says, you're a poopy head, right? That's not even an argument. You're not even defending your position. Or they'll threaten hell. One day when you die, you will stand before God. And then they'll just do that drive-by. They've theologically masturbated, and then they'll go and congratulate themselves for showing that icky atheist how it is. And, but I've gotten some of that, but I haven't heard from Pastor Locke yet. We shall soon see.
Interesting. Well, I saw the video. I thought it was brilliant.
Well, you're very kind. I don't know. I didn't know which way the wind would blow when I threw that out there. Would people share my frustration and take the journey, or would they think I was? Because I don't like to do call out videos and I don't do response videos. It's not really my thing. But it was really more about this culture of MAGA hat wearing, constantly ostensibly persecuted people who are actually the most privileged people in the
Preach.
country
Preach.
telling me how oppressed they are, and then going out with these exercises where they, just, and there are problems. But, what's that line about they being stupid? It said something like, how when you're dead, you don't feel it. It just affects everybody else. It's the same when you're stupid.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about a lot of these people. It may not affect you, but it affects everybody else, right? You are lowering the collective IQ
Absolutely.
of the entire United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Very true. Those are just some of the things that have bothered me. It seems like there's just a specific subset of people who seem to be on the wrong side of everything. If there's a subject, they're going to be on the wrong side of it. Women's rights, wrong side of that. Abortion, wrong side of that. Gay rights, wrong side of that. Religion in schools, wrong side. It just doesn't matter what topic you pick. They're going to go, well, what's the most fucked up side I could take? That's the way I'm going to go. That's just,
and we struggle, don't we?
Yeah.
We struggle with, like, I was reasoned out of bad ideas. I changed my position on abortion and gay marriage and the death penalty and all these other things. It is possible. You see people, even in extremist groups, who were reasoned out of their hate. But those particular cases don't negate the fact that a great many of these people are shut down. I mean, I'll just tell you, I don't care what you say, I'll never change my mind, which is a position they're proud of. And that strikes me as odd.
Well, I think a lot of them were taught that's a test of faith. To be proud of
the idea that if you don't express confidence all the time, it means you're weak. It's kind of a Trumpian way to approach it, where you've always got to be chest out. The words "I don't know," you don't say that. We always know, always have the answer with a capital A, and if we don't really know, we just invoke God. I grieve for the United States. I have a book coming out in June. It's called Confessions of a Former Fox News Christian. And I crawl into my skull back when I was a diehard evangelical, theocrat, Christian nationalist conservative, when I believed that the country belonged to me and my God and my church, and I was against bodily autonomy for women, and I thought gays were homos, the gays. I used gay slurs, not even realizing they were slurs, really. I had all these horrible ideas, and I see that culture is really empowered these days. They're less ashamed. They're less likely to stay inside. They're more apt to go out and wave their banners. And I look at the rest of the world and I see that they see, and I kind of want to I don't want to apologize for my country, but I want to tell them, we're not all like these people. They don't represent me. They're not my values. They aren't. I didn't ask for this. I'm trying to battle it. A great many of my fellow men and women are trying to battle this so that good might prevail. We're as grieved as you are, perhaps more so, because it's happening within our own tent. I'm desperate to communicate that.
That sounds like something a lot of people back in Germany in 1930 were saying.
I mean,
we're not all Nazis. We're not all bad.
I mean, I think, how do we get here? And I used to see Trump as not to get too much into politics. I used to see him as the problem. Now I see him as a symptom.
Yes, sir. That is exactly what he is. He is the symptom.
He is the black light that reveals all of the awfulness that exists within this country, that now feels emboldened to be more publicly awful. And it hurts me physically. And I try not to become a fatalist, but I'm like, is this who we are? Is this what we represent? Are these our values? Is this what we're going to look like to the rest of the world? How does this affect how we legislate, how we lead, how we treat our minorities? It just hurts. It physically hurts. And it's easy to become overwhelmed. And I don't know that I have a solution, except, try to, as best you can, try to stand up for what's important to you, and continue to work and not give up. It's easier to say than to do, for sure.
Seth, from your experience, I know it's very difficult to change people's minds, but what has been the strategy that you found most effective or that you feel is most effective?
Well, I'll start with what was not working. When I first came out of the faith, I spoke in these bumper stickers of insult, right? And I think that mockery of religion has a place. Yeah, the sacred cows sometimes must be roasted. It's healthy for them not to be insulated from mockery and ridicule. That's why Jesus jokes to me are almost always funny. When I see Jesus humor, I'm always cracking up. I just think, this is something that used to control me. Now I can laugh at it because it's powerless. And there's some utility in that. But I used to, be a lot more mocking about someone's religion to their face. And I was completely oblivious to the psychology at play because because their belief is part of their identity, they double down. The backfire effect kicks in. They feel attacked. Now they're defending. They're not listening. There's no conversation. Voices get raised. Feelings get hurt. Nothing changed. I knew someone who had multiple sclerosis. And I said, can I ask you a question? You believe in God? Yeah, right. You believe God answers prayer? Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Do you believe God wants you to have MS? And I was thinking this logically is a good question. Why does God want you to have multiple sclerosis? Why isn't God answering your prayers? It's a legitimate question. But what happened was because I asked it in a kind of a targeted, barbed way, they felt attacked. They doubled down. They were wounded, and it damaged our relationship. And what I found more success with is two things. First of all, I'm a huge fan of street epistemology using the Socratic method, asking questions, right? Where you don't say, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, even though I might be thinking it. I might be like, well, how did that happen exactly? Like in your mind? I mean, can you help me? If you ask in an empathetic way, not with that condescension, but hey, can you explain this to me? Many of these people have never been asked to explain or defend their position. They've just always been affirmed. So, there's some cognitive dissonance and some discomfort. And well, I mean, I can't explain it, but it just is. I've had success in using those experiences to plant tiny seeds and then encouraging them to explore what those seeds represent. And so that's a long game. It's not gratifying in the short run. No one sloughs off their religion immediately and runs frolicking into the field saying, I'm free. That's beautiful, but it just never happens. I've had, that's been more of a productive conversation. At the very least, it allows us to talk about these issues without it damaging our relationship. And it fosters an attitude of mutual respect. Also, I have I found real utility in developing relationships before I have theological discussions. If I walk in with a T-shirt with atheist on the front of it when we first meet, and you're a devout fundamentalist, there's a good chance you're going to see me in terms of being a label, and you're not going to give me the time of day, or you're going to be polite, but then you leave. But, if we get to know each other as human beings, Seth's a nice guy. Seth loves his wife, and he's got he seems to have joy and purpose. He's doing his, wait a minute. I really like him. And then I find out he's an atheist. And then after that, they've already seen me in 3 dimensions. I'm not just a label. That is a lot harder for believers to write off. And it was Ryan Cragen, sociologist at the University of Tampa, who had done some research revealing that one of the biggest ways of changing minds out there is changing somebody's social circle. Right? If they're friends with an atheist and they know he's not all the horrible things we worried about, well, wait a minute. Now perceptions are starting to change. Now minds are starting to expand. And, that's the arena where conversations take place. And if you can start having the conversations, who knows where that'll take you.
Absolutely.
Forgive these long answers. This is what happens when you have a host on as a guest. I just tend to blather on, blah, blah. I mean, ask Kristen. Kristen will tell you. There are no shortage of syllables when you ask me to say something.
It's funny. We were just talking about that in the chat.
What are they telling me? They tell me shut up.
Well,
tell that man to shut his blathering pie hole, for God's sake. Yeah, I can hear
it. There are quite a few questions, and I'm like, pardon me. I'll try to get to them when there's a pause. And she's like, there won't be any pauses.
I'll try to be more pithy for you. But, I'm always coloring in within and outside the lines. So
gotcha. Well, real quick, I got a couple. Let me do a couple real quick and see if I can catch up.
Yeah.
Grumpy old dude, God, wanted to know if you took voice training for your radio voice, or is that just natural? Is that all you?
No, my voice changed early, and I really credit my father for a lot of the ability to communicate. My father's deaf, and he did not sign. He just never would sign. There was a stigma about sign language. And so he learned to be a lip reader. And so we had to, around the dinner table, we had to open our mouths and use economy with our words and be clear in communicating. And so beyond, the idea that I was always kind of a ham, I think his disability actually may have helped me, because it's hard to, you don't want to waste time when he's struggling to read every syllable that you're saying. And so in that way, I think, his infirmament, his disability may have helped me. And then, a lot of it was just, you learn by doing. When I first started in radio, I tried to be the radio guy. And that's what we call a puker, and you're always doing this kind of thing, hey, thanks so much for listening to Kiss FM. You do that kind of thing.
I do it on the show.
I did that. I did it on my home answering machines and stuff. I was trying to be the radio guy. And finally, the obvious occurred to me. And, I found my own voice, and I found that I wasn't talking to people when I was puking. I was talking at them. And I finally learned how to talk to people. And that's kind of when I found my own personal style. There are exercises you can do. There are things you can do to better communicate. Everybody's got their own thing. You got to find your own voice out there.
Kristen also asked, or she said she can't wait for the Jesus game to come out and watch you play it and laugh your ass off.
There's a Jesus video game being marketed. I saw the preview on Steam, and I told my Twitch viewers, when it comes out, I'm definitely going to live stream playing the Jesus game, and I want to heal people. We're going to have to I want to hang out with prostitutes. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping they nail me to the cross. Right, that's going to be wild.
Are you going to rub mud in people's eye? I've always wanted to.
I'm hoping. I want to heal. I want to heal some lepers.
There you go.
I want to cast out some money changers.
A demon.
I want to levitate into the sky. I want the full Jesus experience. And there's no release date for it, so I have no idea when it's going to drop. But as soon as it comes out, trust me, my friends, we shall play the Jesus game together.
Wonderful, wonderful. So now that we're here, do you mind talking about the gaming? You're on Twitch. How long have you been on Twitch? Did Kristen get you into Twitch?
No,
wait.
Well,
do you have a cameo on that game? On the answer machine. I'm sorry. Carry on.
Let me explain why. I think Natalie says I'm a workaholic. When you do what you love, you're always doing it.
Yep.
And even when I'm not doing it, I'm thinking about doing it. I'm going to, I've got to do this, and I've got another idea, and we've got a podcast for next week, and I've got to make sure and call that guest. And oh my God, here's a great idea for this chapter, and I need to go revise something over here, and this audio needs to be tweaked, and I've got a convention coming up. I got to write a speech, and blah, blah, blah. I'm always doing that. But when it's what you love, it's not like it's not like a drudgery. It's like when it's your work and your passion. And Natalie is always talking about the fact that you need balance. You need balance in your life. You need to do something else. And she calls it bubble gum for the brain. Everybody's got it. And, whether you play golf or whether you crochet or whether you travel, I mean, almost everybody's got it. And I love the fact that they like to make fun of somebody else's bubble gum for the brain. So the guys that play golf make fun of the people who play video games. The people who play video games make fun of the people who love football, those types. But we've all got our little mindless stuff. And I used to play a long time ago. I was weaned on the old Atari 2600, and I had the Nintendo NES, had a ColecoVision, played in television, played the stand-up arcades. I'm a typical 80s child, but I was terrible. I was always a terrible gamer, but I always enjoyed it. And so I decided, well, it'll be kind of fun. Let's put together a channel. It's called Seth Andrews Gaming Badly, because I wanted to just front this. You're not going to see gaming excellence. You're not going to see dexterity and prowess and skill and reflex. You're going to see somebody who has to be told how to do the most basic of functions by people who are watching in the chat, probably chewing their fingernails right off their hands, So, and that's part of the fun for people. For some reason, when I'm sitting there cussing because I can't find the door, or I fall off the cliff, or I'm being beaten, they just think it's awesome. But I'll tell you, the ancillary, kind of the byproduct of me not being good at this is it actually has become more of a communal experience, because they will be like, no, try this. They'll make suggestions. No, try that. Hey, go left, go right. No, you're doing this wrong. So we communicate. So I talk back to them. No, wait, where do I go? Where's the tree with the fork in it with the special flower that heals my, oh, hang on just a second. Somebody find a walkthrough. Kristen goes and gets the walkthrough, pastes the paragraph. Okay, hang on. Let me go back to this other town and we're going to do this. And it adds a whole other dynamic to gaming. So it's become something I really love to do. I try to take a break from the editing and the podcasting and all that stuff, at least 3 times a week, and crank up a game. I like the horror genre. I like adventure games. We just finished the Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider game. Dead Space we played. We'll do some puzzle. We've done The Room. We'll occasionally play Drawful. We try to mix it up a little bit. But, if you come and watch the channel, keep expectations low. Just keep them low.
Avoid disappointment.
Just keep them low. That's all I have to say.
Gotcha. Good. Yeah, because I grabbed Kristen and just chunked her under the bus. Because that's, like I said, you, in fact, were one of the first people I followed, I think, on Twitch. Yeah.
If it was not for Kristen, I know we've mentioned her name a lot.
Yes.
If it was not for Kristen, I would still probably be in the first chapter of the first game I ever played, banging on the wall, trying to get out. Like she's kind of my escape hatch. She's kind of like the genie that you summon. Get me out of how do I get out of here? And then Kristen goes in and looks at her crystal ball and comes back and shows me where to go. So otherwise, if it had not been for her and a few other people, I would probably still be banging around the first few frames of the first game I ever played.
It sounds like you let go and let Kristen take the wheel.
Let go, let Kristen. That's my bumper sticker.
That's good.
I had a similar experience. She got me watching Matt Dillahunty playing this Ori and the Will of the Wisps game.
Yeah.
And she's like, don't play it. Or she warned me it was a rage quitting game. So then I went and got the first one. I found out there was one before that, Ori and the Blind Forest. I started playing. I'm like, what the hell? And she's like, you can grab those things, right? And I'm like, oh no, I didn't know that. But so she saved me. If it hadn't been for her, I'd probably still be stuck back there. But then I was playing that on Twitch, and the wife, she likes to watch the Twitch games, or will like to watch me and play. So that we decided not to do that on Twitch anymore. I'll play other games on Twitch, not those. But Tomb Raider. You liked Tomb Raider?
Well, I was trying to get back to the basics. I like an adventure game where you're. God, I played the first one that came out, the reboot in 2013, and then in 2015 was Rise of the Tomb Raider. I think it's 2015, and then I've got Shadow of the Tomb Raider queued up, but I kind of wanted a break. I don't know. I like atmospheric games where you're in a dark place and you're one. Again, this speaks to the horror fan in me. What's around the next corner? I don't even mind a good jump scare from time to time. But you know, the Resident Evil games have been fun. The Evil Within was a lot of fun. The first one, those types of things where you're sort of trotting forward, and then the lights go out, and you don't know what's going to happen next. I enjoy those kinds of.
Fear 2. That's
I haven't. Have I played Fear? I'm looking.
Fear 2. Yeah,
I don't believe I played Fear.
Fear 2 was a really good jump scare game for me. I've only played it through once, but I really enjoyed it. If you're into that kind of game.
Hold, please. Hang on.
It's probably
you keep talking.
cheap.
I'm going to look this up. So.
Okay, yeah. It's probably good and cheap now because it's sort of an old game, but yeah, it was a really good.
That's you're talking my language.
Yeah. And for some reason it has I don't know what happened with games there for a while, but for quite a while, little girls are some kind of scary thing. Like in BioShock, little girls are everywhere and there's terrible, scary. This isn't one of those
Fear
games.
2 Project Origin.
Fear 2, yeah, I believe that's it. I have it on Steam. I just haven't played it in a while.
I'll take a look at it. So
eyeball that. That was some fun. A lot of
52-year-old. I just think
52.
You never outgrow this stuff. I told Natalie, I will always be in a few ways a little boy. I will always be that person that wants to suit up and go dispatch the bad guys. I'll always be that guy. I've seen videos. There's one guy, I think he's like 80, and he's on Twitch, and every time he wastes somebody, he cackles like a madman and screams, "Chicken dinner!" I don't even know what that means. Like winner, chicken dinner. The guy's just a madman. That's me. I want to be that guy in 30 years. Gray hair. And then, yeah, come on, mother, I'm gonna get you chicken dinner. I want to be that guy when I'm 80 years old.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Somebody asked, Kelly Sellers asked if Fear was a space game. It's not. I don't think it's a space game. It's more like modern horror in this time kind of thing.
It's hard to tell. It looks rather dystopian, a little sci-fi, but it's hard to tell. Mostly, it's just close-ups and the screenshots of zombies and big guns.
Yeah, it's not like. It's not like what's that one you mentioned it earlier?
Dead Space.
Dead Space. It's not like Dead Space where they're out on a ship. This is on Earth. Yeah. And I've
done
only
Dead
played
Space.
Dead Space once, and I got about 3/4 of the way through it, and then life I actually moved and never got back to the game. I need to get back to that. Are you a fan of that series?
We did 1 and 2. Dead Space 3 has been interesting, if not hugely compelling. I have the attention span of a goldfish. So if we get into some specific games and I find myself like some of these things, you got to go here into the basement. You got to find a key and the key goes to the shed. I got to walk all the way out here and the shed's way in the back of the property. And then I got to go back to the basement because the shed has a different kind of lock, that kind of stuff. And they'll tell you in the gaming room, I'm just like, I'll just vapor lock. I'm not doing this. This is stupid. And I'll shut down. And Steam, if you've played less than 2 hours, they'll let you refund the whole game. And so I've refunded plenty after rage quitting. This is stupid, Just
Mass Effect. Did you go through that series?
I haven't played it. Haven't played Mass Effect. Probably my favorite game we've ever done is Alien Isolation. It's just a freaking masterpiece. It's great adventure. It's got some great scares. The story's fantastic. It's just such a good game.
Did the aliens have to shelter in place?
They didn't in my case. They definitely were within 6 feet when I was playing. Yeah, definitely. So
puzzles. Seth loves lots of puzzles. He does
not.
No,
he does not.
I'd heard that about you, actually. Yeah,
he does not.
One of the things that Kristen warned me about with the Ori was the rage quitting. That if you play Ori, there'll be some rage quitting. She was not wrong. Yeah, there's rage quitting.
I was impressed with how the game was made. I struggled with it. I struggled with the side-scrolling controls, some of the other stuff. There was a lot going on, and I'm probably showing my age.
It reminds me of Metroid.
Yeah, that was a classic. Metroid was a classic NES game.
Yeah, it was
there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah. You gotta get certain things before you can go through certain areas. Like the jump boots. You'd have to get the jump boots in Metroid before you can go someplace. In Willow or in this game here, they're the little double jump. You know, I mean, it's very similar. You have to get these things to go past. So it's kind of reminiscent for me.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great game. It just wasn't my flavor of
Your
game.
bag, yeah. Well, you know, they've got all the Japanese, and I guess all the game versions are like this. And it tells the story in Japanese, and it's got subtitles that tells you the story. And they come to this big frog. He's like, and he's got a really deep voice. I'm not picking on Japanese people. Every time we see it, I go, Solo, because he looks like Jabba the Hutt, right? So I finish it off for him with Solo. Me and the wife really get a kick out of that.
I've been getting into foreign films lately. You know, I saw Parasite, which won the Academy Award.
Yeah.
Beautiful movie. Beautiful movie. And so I started to think, you know, I was listening to the director say that, you know, if you can get past the idea of subtitles, you've opened yourself up to a world of film that you never really explored before. And I'm you know, Pan's Labyrinth is a favorite. And there are some other foreign language films that I do love, but I've been kind of on a kick lately. So we rented one called The Captain, which is a plane disaster movie that, you know, it was all right. Train to, is it Busan is supposed to be fantastic, or Busan or whatever. So I've been doing kind of a foreign language, I've been on a foreign language kick recently, trying to become more cultured, expand my horizons a little bit.
I grew up watching some of those Kurosawa movies. Ron.
Yeah. Seven Samurai and all that stuff.
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's amazing stuff.
What's your favorite horror movie?
Yeah.
My favorite horror?
Yeah.
Well, it's not scary anymore. It's just awesome. It's just such a product of its time. It marked that year so much for me, and it spawned two amazing sequels. Sam Raimi's Evil Dead.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah.
Oh,
my
wow.
God.
Like, if you watch it now with someone who's never seen the franchise, who has the sophistication of watching modern day horror films or any film, they will look at you like, what is wrong with you? But those of us who were a product of that day, and like I've read Bruce Campbell's autobiography and gotten into deep into the making of the Evil Dead, which essentially is just college kids out in the woods with a 16mm camera on borrowed money, just doing it because they love it. I mean, literally sacrificing themselves, sleeping on the floor, you know, using actors that or stand-ins because they went well over time, and the actors, they couldn't pay them, or they had to go back to college, or whatever. It's just trying to fill the gaps as best they could, and somehow created this sort of landmark horror film. And you know, if you watch it now, when you hear the old synth soundtrack and a lot of that, the bad makeup, and a lot of folks won't get it, but that to me is probably the one most cherished horror movie. I think I still do. I used to have Evil Dead 1 and 2 in a special Necronomicon Book of the Dead cover.
That's great. That's great.
It was a rubber cover that looked like the Book of the Dead, and it had white eyeballs. And if you press the right eyeball, you'd hear this scream. You hear this every time you press the eyeball on the Necronomicon. That's how I roll. But yeah, the Evil Dead trilogy, probably, if I had to pick a favorite. Not because they're all that scary, just because they really are genius. They really are well made for what they are, for what they were at the time. And Evil Dead 2 is aged better, and then Army of Darkness will always be a classic in my mind.
Good, bad. I'm the guy with a gun.
I'm the guy with the gun. This is my boomstick. I love the fact that, and I don't know why the studio shot this down, but Sam Raimi wanted to name Army of Darkness. He wanted to name it The Medieval Dead. I'm like, that is brilliant.
That's a great name.
Why would the studio knock that down? They're like, well, we want this to look like a standalone movie. How can this look like a standalone movie? You're tying it directly to the end of Evil Dead 2. So the Medieval Dead, I always thought that was a great line. Great title.
I did not know that. I feel if there's nothing else from this conversation I've gotten, Seth, it's Medieval Dead.
You're welcome, world. You're welcome. I'm a giver.
Well, guys, you know what? Thank you very much. It's been you've been a wonderful guest, Seth.
Oh, it's an honor to be here, man. It's nice to be able to hang out with people and, not have to necessarily just stick around talking about the heavy stuff, but just talk about life stuff. That's always fun.
That's one of the things I like about my morning shows. A lot of times it's laughs, it's jokes. I mean, we the first time you come on, we like to meet you. And then after that, if you come back on the show, we'll just jump right into the whole laughing and having a good time rather than like you call it the heavy stuff.
Yeah. Well, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I get tired of it. It's not that I get tired of trying to debunk bad ideas and superstition because it's important, but you can only say there's no evidence for any gods anywhere so many times in so many ways. And after a while, it just wears you down, just wears you down. And so it's refreshing to be able to jump off and talk about life stuff, whatever else is going on. I think, as Natalie would say, you need balance. So we're all balancing a little bit. So no, it's an honor to be here. I appreciate the invite very much.
Thank you. Yeah. And, of course, like I said, I do it 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern. So if you want to join me again, you're welcome to join. You're welcome to co-host. I have Andy as a co-host on Tuesday. Leanne Lord is a comedian on Saturday. If you ever get the urge and you want to co-host or hang out again, you let me know. Of course, I'll hit you up through time. I'll be like, hey, you want to come back? But
have your people call my people.
I think I may not have a choice in that. She'll be like, Kristen will be like, did you get with Seth again? Get him on your show again? I'll be like, well,
we'll do it again. We'll do it again. Like I say, I'm rushing a book to publication and preparing some. I'm doing a remote speech for an event in Dallas and preparing the podcasts for May and June of this year. But we can probably find a window at some point.
Well, if you want to show your book, on the show, if you want to come back after you publish the book and show it on the show, we'd love to.
Yeah, I'd be honored.
I'll actually read the book. I'll tell you that now.
Does it have pictures?
It's got puzzles and there's pop-ups.
Okay. I'll even provide my own crayons.
Crafts. Yeah, you're gonna really like it. So you're very kind.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for showing up. Andy, thank you again for showing up and being my co-host. You are wonderful. People, if you don't mind, Andy's laughing in disbelief. He and I were racing to 1,000 subscribers. It's like old people racing, though. If either of us falls down, we're going to hurt ourselves. But I broke 900. I think he's broke 850 now or somewhere.
I don't know.
Anyway,
I do what I do, but of course I do that blog on Patheos too, under the same name, Laughing in Disbelief.
There you go. He's got that as well. So that's your main bag is the blog on Patheos. That's wonderful. So
yes.
Don't forget to follow him over there, and of course Seth Andrews. I put some links down there to Seth's website in the chat or in the description below. So thank you both for joining me.
You betcha.
Thank you everybody in the chat. Yeah, thank you everybody in the chat. You guys were wonderful. I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody's questions. Blame Seth. It's his fault. Thank you and have a wonderful week.
Blame Andy.
Blame Andy. Well, I'm going to make a hashtag blame Andy. Yeah. Because I can. It's my show. I can do this. I'll see y'all later. Thank you guys.